The game never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to the SDH Network. We're always around the corner from everywhere, and Morning Espresso is brought to you by Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. It's Monday. It's January 5th. I'm Jason Longshore, and if your New Year's resolution was stability, well, the soccer world has already ignored that. Let's get into it. Let's go to Manchester. Manchester United have sacked Ruben Amorim this morning. The reset button gets pushed. His final match was Sunday's 1-1 draw against Leeds, a result that leaves United sixth in the Premier League after 20 matches. Close enough to relevance, much better than last season, but far enough from confidence. By Monday morning, the club had decided it was time to move on, although there's some reports that that decision had already been made even before the Leeds match, according to the Telegraph. The decision was reluctant in the description from the club, but necessary to give the team the best possible chance of finishing the season strongly. Darren Fletcher steps in as the interim manager starting Wednesday night away at Burnley. A permanent appointment is expected to wait until the summer, which tells you something right away. This was not a move paired with a clear next step. It's a reset. Now it's going to take a little bit of time, and it's not the first time that the club has been in this situation. Behind the scenes, the reporting is pretty consistent. The decision was made by CEO Omar Barada and Director of Football Jason Wilcox after what sources describe as a complete breakdown in the working relationships. Tactically, philosophically, structurally, the trust was gone, and it wasn't subtle. Amorim made it clear after the match that he saw himself as the manager, not merely the coach, and those words landed pretty loudly inside the club, whose new ownership has been clear that the hierarchy sets the direction. It's never going to work well, and Enzo Maresca found this out as well, when you take internal debates and disagreements to the public in press conferences. And it didn't work for Maresca. It has not worked for Amorim. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to go at this point because the financial cost to the club and the financial benefit to him is pretty significant. He's going to get his whole contract, first off. United paid 11 million euros to get him out of Sporting in Lisbon. No break clause in the deals. They're going to pay out the contract that runs through 2027. His loyalty to the 3-4-3 system for a lot of people became the defining fault line. They experimented with other shapes in training. They won playing a 4-2-3-1 against Newcastle in late December, but even that, it looked very similar to the 3-4-3 in terms of structure and the way it actually played out. Under pressure, Amorim always returned to what he knew. The club expected adaptation, which I don't know why when you heard him talk when he was hired that they would get that. Instead, they got the conviction in what had worked previously. And I think the shape is not the actual issue here. I think it's the lack of flexibility in dealing with just the things that happen in the Premier League. You can have principles, you can have strong convictions. Those are fine. Every top manager does, and they have to. If you don't, you're never going to be successful. But I think what you find in the Premier League, and Pep Guardiola went through this, Jurgen Klopp went through this, Mikel Arteta has gone through this, Jose Mourinho went through this during his time. Every top manager who is very strong-willed and very strong-minded in how they see the game understands that there will be times where you have to adapt, whether it is because of your fixture congestion, whether it is because of the current form of the squad, whether it's injuries, fatigue, whatever. There's going to be times that you have to stay as true to your principles as you possibly can, but also understand that it's time to adapt. I don't think Amorim ever quite got his head around that. That's the issue here. The club expected some adaptation. They didn't get it, and instead it felt like he was digging in even more. And that's just not going to work at this level. It's just not. On the pitch, the numbers don't tell a good story about Ruben Amorim. The club ELO data shows that United have continued a long post-Sir Alex Ferguson decline. There was a slight recent uptick, fewer defeats since October, but nothing resembling a genuine upward trajectory. Not Jose Mourinho level, not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer level. Never mind getting to Sir Alex Ferguson level. Amorim never really moved the dial from where it was when he took over after Erik ten Hag. It flickered a little bit, but then it's kind of settled right back to where it's been really for a decade outside of Mourinho and Solskjaer, who had better runs than anyone else. So this is where the questions become unavoidable. Sir Jim Ratcliffe had said that Amorim deserved time, 3 years. The owners insisted that the club would define the style of play and hire accordingly, except they didn't. They appointed a manager with a rigid, well-known system. They backed him heavily in the transfer market, spending more than £200 million over the summer, and that still wasn't enough, to be clear. And that's the other element here, is they spent a lot, and he still did not have a squad that was strong enough to compete with the top end of the table. They probably are about where they should be based on their talent level. So this is where it gets really tricky. How do you get better? I don't know. You're going to have to spend more. That's number one. You don't have the money to spend more because you already had to cut lunches last year. You've got some issues financially that are going to define what you do next. I don't know how you fix it. And I'm not saying that to say that Ruben Amorim was the answer. I don't think he was, and I think we did see enough to get there. But what is the answer? I don't know if there is one for Manchester United. The Drew Dickinson diatribe, the 3D, will definitely have some thoughts on this on the SDH network over the next week. It's going to be very difficult for Manchester United to be what they used to be. It might be impossible for them to be what they used to be anytime soon. They've talked about building a new stadium. I don't know how that happens. They talk about being elite again. I don't know how that happens. And I don't know what direction they're going to go in terms of hiring here, because it's obvious with the way all of this played out, there was not a plan. So now what? Some of the biggest decisions that Manchester United will ever make are going to be made between now and the time that they hire their new manager. Massive, history-shaping decisions ahead for Manchester United. But the merry-go-round continues to spin in the Premier League. At the Etihad, Chelsea, they rescued a point late via Enzo Fernandez, 94th minute leveler to earn a 1-1 draw against Manchester City. It's been a surreal few days for Chelsea after Enzo Maresca's dismissal. U21's coach, Callum McFarland, was thrust into the interim role. He managed pretty well with illnesses, with absences, with uncertainty. Liam Rossinier is now in London. Chelsea are closing in on a deal appointing him as the new head coach. Strasbourg's shared ownership under Blueco makes the process smoother. All signs point towards an announcement very soon, maybe even before the midweek match at Fulham. He steps into a big chair, a big test, and we'll see if patience is actually going to be there for him at Stamford Bridge. City have to bounce back after a disappointing dropping of 2 points puts them further behind Arsenal. Elsewhere, late drama shaped the race. Fulham, they stunned Liverpool after Liverpool stunned Fulham in stoppage time. Then Fulham, Harrison Reed, goal of the season candidate, deep in stoppage time to secure a 2-2 draw. Cody Gakpo had won it looked like, seconds earlier. But it's another defensive lapse late. Arne Slot's side frustrated, exposed, and still searching for consistency in the top four race. At the bottom, West Ham, they're saying publicly they're going to choose stability right now. 3-0 defeat away to Wolves, which is very bad. The board has no immediate plans to sack Nuno Espirito Santo. They are 18th. They are 4 points from safety. West Ham intend to back Nuno through the January window, even as fan protests intensify and the performances slide. Arsenal just chilling. They remain calm. They're 6 points clear at the top. Everything is pretty good for the Gunners right now after a big week. We'll see if that can continue as we get deeper into January. Let's go to Africa. The African Cup of Nations has delivered consistently during this tournament. Results yesterday, Morocco 1-0 composed win over Tanzania in Rabat. It wasn't flashy. It was authoritative. Tanzania had a couple of big chances, though, but Brahim Diaz provided the decisive moment. Finished from a tight angle. He showed patience, awareness inside the box. You could see him get his head up. Snuck it past the goalkeeper in the inside near post. Fourth goal of the tournament. It's a historic run. He scored in every match, and it's another reminder that Morocco's quality, their depth, their maturity may finally match their ambition as they go and try to win this thing at home. But now they have a heavyweight quarterfinal ahead against Cameroon. Cameroon beat South Africa 2-1 to advance. I thought it was a very strong performance from Cameroon, their best of the tournament. Junior Chamudeo and teenage striker Christian Kofani, they put the indomitable Lions in control. A late South African push made the ending a little uncomfortable, but Cameroon were disciplined, they were efficient, and they were ruthless when the chances came. They were by far the better team. The history of Cameroon and Morocco, who will play in the quarterfinal, is important here. Cameroon are the last team to beat Morocco at home in a competitive match a long, long time ago, almost 40 matches ago. You're going back to 2009. They eliminated Morocco when AFCON was last hosted in Morocco in 1988. They kept Morocco from qualifying for the 1990 World Cup. They have broken Moroccan hearts before repeatedly. This is not just your typical quarterfinal coming up later this week. Elsewhere, Tunisia's elimination sparked some public soul-searching. Hannibal Mejbri openly questioned the state of football in his country, calling Tunisia 10 years behind. After South Africa's loss, they're also facing some internal criticism as Tico Modise placed blame on Hugo Bruce and the coach for a lack of urgency after falling behind. I would agree with that. Today's round of 16 continues with Egypt facing Benin. Egypt big favorites in that. Nigeria also big favorites taking on Mozambique. We'll see if the favorites can take care of business and get to the quarterfinals. Let's come back to the States. Some domestic updates. Atlanta United reportedly saw a bid for Elias Baez rejected by San Lorenzo. This is according to Herman Garcia Grova. $2.75 million offer plus bonuses deemed insufficient. The talks do continue, but the message from San Lorenzo is that the price is not going to come down easily on their end. In LA, brutal news for the LA Galaxy. Ricky Puig will undergo knee surgery on the same ACL that cost him all of 2025. He's ruled out for 2026. The Galaxy will open a designated player slot, but how do you replace a player who led them to a title and now you're going to miss for 2 years? Very, very difficult for Greg Vanney and the Galaxy. In Orlando, the Luis Muriel saga drags on. He's willing to take a pay cut, and he's trying to move to Atletico Junior in Colombia, but there are sponsorship complications with that move. They don't have the money to get the deal done right now. Orlando City have already told him he's not part of their 2026 plans, according to Pipe Sierra of AS Colombia. This one's far from over. I don't expect him in Orlando, but I don't know if he's going to get to Atletico Junior. Vancouver, they transferred Ali Ahmed to Norwich City. They've retained a sell-on percentage, the Canadian international foundational piece of Vancouver's recent success. That move gives the Whitecaps some opportunity here to go out into the market. Sporting Kansas City, according to Tom Bogert and The Athletic, are finalizing a deal to appoint Rafael Vicky as their new head coach, new era after Peter Vermes' long tenure. Vicky was previously with Chicago, didn't get the job done there, has had success in his native Switzerland, but there's a clear reset underway in Sporting Kansas City, and he'll have an opportunity to shape that along with new CEO David Lee. The Red Bulls, they're close to adding center back Robert Voloder from Sporting Kansas City, would reinforce a defense in flux after multiple departures for the Red Bulls. And Inter Miami was chasing Matko Miljevic, the U.S. men's national team midfielder in Argentina, but it looks like he is going to stay at Racing Club instead of coming to Miami. He was at Huracan previously, but Racing is trying to upgrade their squad a little bit. It's just another reminder that MLS is just part of the global marketplace and in the mix for lots of different moves all over the place. Don't forget, today on SDH AM, John Nelson, joined by Abe Gordon of 92.9 The Game, and Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US podcast. You can catch it live right now on the YouTube channel, on Twitch, on X, or on demand later as a podcast. Tomorrow on SDH AM, Casey White from Apple TV joins the show alongside Rob Edwards, who's the majority shareholder in Morley Sports Management, fresh off their acquisition of Hamilton Academical in Scotland. And then tonight, soccer over there, 8 o'clock, we'll go deeper on the Ruben Amorim fallout, what Manchester United does to reset, what comes next, and we'll get into some picks of the week. We had some late drama in picks of the week this week as well. The refill, some headlines as we wrap up this edition of the Morning Espresso. Real Madrid, they stay in the title race in La Liga, 5-1 win over Real Betis. Gonzalo Garcia with a hat trick, the Club World Cup hero, turns into the hero again, filling in for the injured Kylian Mbappe. Xabi Alonso backed Vinicius Jr. publicly after he was whistled at the Santiago Bernabeu, insisting that he remains fundamental ahead of their Supercopa clash with Atleti. That's really classy from Xabi Alonso. PSG, they beat Paris FC 2-1. They retain bragging rights in the French capital. Ousmane Dembélé scored the winner in the second half. Napoli, they opened 2026 with a 2-0 win at Lazio. Then chaos, 3 red cards, touchline scuffles, Antonio Conte in the middle of all of it. Total madness, what you expect in Serie A. Aberdeen in Scotland, they have dismissed manager Jimmy Thielen. Despite last season's Scottish Cup triumph, underperformance relative to the investment is the reason cited, and it did look like it was starting to go south for Thielen even after that Scottish Cup triumph. I expected more, thought they'd kick on a little bit this season, but they did not. Gary O'Neill, he is in talks to take over at Strasbourg if Liam Rossignol edges closer to Chelsea. If he ends up taking the Chelsea job, which he should, Gary O'Neill could be the leader in the clubhouse to take over at Strasbourg. John Herdman, he was named Indonesia's head coach. That's interesting, and don't know if they have drones in Indonesia, but John Herdman probably checking on all of the rules regarding that, if you remember his time in Canada. The Zone, they were ordered to continue broadcasting Belgium's Pro League. They tried to get out of the contract due to some carriage issues over there, but they are ordered to continue. They're ordered to pay their outstanding fees as everybody goes back to the bargaining table. And in Liga MX, Club America, they have signed Brazilian midfielder Rodrigo Dourado, formerly of Internacional in Brazil, also spent some time in Mexico with Atlético San Luis. That reinforces their midfield in a big way ahead of the Clausura 2026. So from Old Trafford to Rabat, this was a Monday about resets. Some forced, some chosen, few fully planned. Manchester United hit that reset button pretty hard. The Premier League spun through some late goals and managerial uncertainty. AFCON tightens up. MLS moves some pieces around as resets continue there. And the margins grow thinner and thinner everywhere in the world. That's your Morning Espresso for Monday. We'll connect all the dots again tomorrow on a new edition of the Morning Espresso presented by our friends at Oglethorpe University. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you for soccer over there tonight at 8 o'clock and then tomorrow morning for another edition of the Espresso.